Welcome, Jayant.
Hello, Sam-Erik. Good afternoon. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. And we haven't talked for a while, and I think you have a lot of interesting things happening here. You've been analyzing what's happening in the industry, and I think that's very exciting. I'm also been trying to keep up, and I have to admit I have a little bit of fatigue hearing the word COVID. I have a little bit of fatigue when somebody talks about new economy. So if there is a way we can, and post-pandemic, I think those are the three words that I get sort of, okay, what else is there going on? But it doesn't matter. I think everybody knows where we are, and definitely it's quite an interesting situation where the area is going to be, the tourism is going to, countries are opening up, and there's opportunity to travel. And what we're going to talk about is, we have several topics, in fact, Jayant. And what are the most important deep tech solutions for travel and tourism, and why they matter for hotels? We will talk first about the tourism updates, and we will finalize about your views on AirBnB as a technological company and as a hospitality brand. So those are the things. Or is there anything else you want to talk about today, or are we pretty much in agreement about the topics?
Well, I came across some very interesting data points, examples and case studies from East Asia. Especially how hotels are using technology. Probably, I would like to get into that quickly for about 5-7 minutes, towards the end when we're discussing that topic, and then also provide my personal view of, how the hoteliers should adopt technology and, how they should integrate it.
Excellent. That's why we have the viewers glued to the screen to hear your views. So for the viewers now who are watching us live, I'd like to thank everyone who is joining us live on, whether you are on Facebook or LinkedIn, and please put your comments. We'd like to know what you're thinking about our show, and since we have Jayant here online, I think it would be very nice that if you pass on, just any comments you have. And number one, give us a thumbs up if you like these kind of topics. Number two, write in where you are watching from. It would be very important to us that we know that what part of the world you are watching us. It would be very nice to know, so we can say hello to you and bring you into the show also for the moment. But we should talk about the topic that we will start with: latest travel and tourism news as the first lockdowns are lifting. So what are the things that you have noticed, and what have you read up on from Bangalore? Looking out from Bangalore.
Yeah, you have to say looking out from Bangalore, because most of the news is outside when it comes to travel and tourism industry. Not a lot happening in India. But primarily the news is surrounding airlines, right? We've seen how Cathay Pacific is getting a $5 billion bailout from the Hong Kong government. Garuda is restructuring. Its finances of to the tune of $1.5 billion. It's not taking a bailout, but it's restructuring. We are already getting at least I got a list of about 10 airlines around the world. A bunch of them US airlines actually, which have gone under, including Virgin Australia, Air Mauritius, Avianca, and Ravnair, Flybe, and Compass from USA, right? So a lot happening in the airline sector, clearly, and and Europe has opened up. The summer is on, so this is the news that you should throw some light on for me, because I'm a outside in perspective guy and theoretical news guy when it comes to this. But tell me what's happening with UK closing down its borders and not letting its tourists to go out into other countries, into Europe, and trying to get them to spend money within the country.
Well, I don't want to politicize this discussion, but I can tell you there are a lot of hotels, restaurants, bars, and anyone relying on their livelihood and tourism that are they're not very happy at the moment. And also when you have the different restrictions that is put in place, it just kind of make you think, well, is it worthwhile to travel to those directions? the key thing in Europe is that you need to have a long checklist of before you even leave your home to what are the updated restrictions, and they are changing quite a bit. And every day there's something new coming up, but it's worthwhile to be cautious. And what happens is, as a result of that, is that people are staying in their home country because they know at least what is exactly the reality in traveling in the home country. I can only speak personally for my wife and myself. We are staying in Finland, and Finland is a beautiful country to explore, and that's what we're going to do. And I simply think that a lot of people will choose to take their this year's holidays in their home country, and they kind of kiss goodbye 2020 in that way. But when it comes to 2021, they will be definitely planning. They are in Europe. There are many of the cruise liners who has been traditionally providing cruise in the Mediterranean. Some of them are in fact who are based. Let's say there's a small cruise line that has only 2 mega yachts who are normally cruising in the Mediterranean at this time of the year. They are cruising because they're from Norway. They are cruising along the Norwegian coastline, and because the cruises have also some challenges. Well, there's a history about not too long ago about how people have been getting viruses and they were then quarantined and so on. So as a result of that, there's sort of a little bit of a worriness. Well, after all, it's my holiday. Should I take it? And another thing is that, well, some people think, well, I had 3 months of holiday here in the spring during the lockdown, so I think what I need is just a sort of a long weekends doing something, and that will be pretty much in my own home country or the neighboring city or in the countryside, particularly here in the Nordics.
I think I completely resonate with that sentiment. Just last night, I was speaking to a very good friend from Stockholm, and I call her a perpetual holidayer. I mean, summer or no summer, I see her husband and her 3 kids holidaying all the time, right? So just last night, I was catching up with her, and I was asking her, the summer's in, so where are you off to? And she was like, nowhere. I mean, stuck here. Taking a friend's summer home for about 5 days, and probably we can move there. But this time, not going anywhere. And it's very surprising because she's not one of those very fearful or anxious ladies who'd get stuck, and she has wanderlust. I mean, right? So I understand that. Even a very good friend of mine is a travel blogger in India, and I was having a conversation with her the other day, Ami Bhatt. And she is saying that as travel bloggers, we are actually discouraging travelers, to travel even domestically until the end of this year. I mean, just stay home. They're creating a lot of virtual content, to keep travelers and tourists enjoying through internet and YouTube videos. But they're saying, even as travel bloggers, we are discouraging people from traveling. So it looks like 2020 can be written off, which could be an opportunity, for hospitality industry and the tourism industry to make some changes, that could be long-term, long-standing, and come 2021 second half and beyond could be extremely beneficial.
So maybe is that a bridge to our next topic?
Why not?
I want to add one more thing before that, because of
Sure.
I talked to a friend of mine who is operating a hotel in Malaysia, a very popular resort, and he told me that they're very slow start, but already next week they are in the 40% occupancies. Considering the situation, it's quite good, but it's 100% domestic travel. So people, their visitors are all from Malaysia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so here we're going to talk about deep technologies-based solutions for travel and tourism for the current and post bling 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 era. As I promised not to use this word.
You just don't want to use that word.
No. I'm getting I'm getting sort of shivers when I hear about it again.
Fatigue.
I have to grow up, but that's how I feel. I'm sorry.
No, and you have all the right to feel that. I mean, it's been more than enough, and just that word is inducing a certain kind of emotions in everybody's minds and hearts these days. So might as well keep it away. To each their own, actually.
Good.
So, but me as an industry observer and an analyst and a consultant, I'm actually, tracking some very interesting developments, for the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry being developed, from my friends in artificial intelligence and computer vision, and data analytics and digital technology entrepreneurs, right? So, one set of computer vision, artificial AI based products and solutions that I'm observing are, CCTV camera based mask identification. Imagine you're in a big, you run a big hotel or a resort, okay, and now it's mandatory for this year and probably next that guests should wear, while out in the open, guests should wear masks. Okay, you cannot all the time, monitor that. But you have your existing cameras, spread across different areas of the resort. Those cameras at the back end could be loaded with a computer vision AI algo and a software which can identify if people are wearing masks at all the time or not. So, basic facial recognition. So that is happening. Again, computer vision AI-based social distancing. There are algorithms which can calculate if you're 6 feet apart or not, or who is and who isn't. Okay, so some of these things are already ready. They are being implemented in various, outside of hospitality industry. They are being implemented in retail, industry, chains, malls, restaurants. So these are some of the solutions that I'm observing coming in. And obviously there are personal concierge solutions. There are a number of them. Again, a good friend of mine, founded this company called RevoX. Okay, they do this complete personalized concierge solution, right from self check-in to room key. Room keys, your phone can be your room key unto itself. Accessing menus. Your lights and your electronic appliances within the room, your curtains, everything can be remotely done. Your spas and gyms, check in and check out, everything. So all of a sudden we are looking at mobile app and data analytics based personalized concierge solutions also coming in. And I think some of these solutions are going to be, long-term beneficial, both in terms of experience and we've talked about this experience a long time on this particular podcast for almost a year, Sam-Erik, now,
yeah.
Right? But both from an experience and cost point of view as well.
Yeah, I'm reading on LinkedIn. And if Rupert Paschel is watching this, just a shout out to Rupert, who is a hotel owner in Florida in the United States, and he's very active on LinkedIn. And he talks about the keyless access to hotel rooms, and I think it really directs to the discussion we have had already for some time ago, but now it's really popping up on the radar for hoteliers. And what you rightly say about those very much these different kind of solutions, it just have to be the way it's packaged and the way it's made it easy for the hotels to consider, well, is this going to be a short-term solution or is this going to be for long-term? Because the hotels always look at operational efficiency, revenue growth, and anything that will revenue growth and operational efficiency are probably the two key factors that are hotels and hotel owners particularly are looking at. So any solutions that are come up with, whether it's sort of the venture capitalists investing into the latest startup, or there's something that has been advanced to the past the beta, but now it's can be considered a reliable software. Those are the things that we'll be looking at. But I like the idea you talking about is that the guest messaging or the software that provides these kind of solutions about keyless access, and because the app itself will hold quite a bit of data for you, isn't it?
Exactly. The app itself holds quite a bit of data. The hotel owners can get the preferences about a complete demographic and psychographic profiling of the guest. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that a little later. But my suggestion as an industry advisor to the hotel owners and resort owners is this: when you're making decisions on implementing some of these technology-based solutions and softwares, is that ensure that the software that you're implementing and the value and the offering that it provides is long-term in nature. Okay, it doesn't make sense to implement something for short-term. And second, that it's very flexible in terms of integration with future other softwares, right? I mean, the biggest problem that hotels face today is most of their HMS softwares, the hotel management softwares, are legacy, and they don't integrate with some of the new cutting edge solutions. That is, I guess, one of the biggest issues, and most of the hotel owners, they're not in the technology business. I mean, they want something very fast, and technology solutions are something that they need plug and play, right? Like electricity. They don't need a learning curve. They shouldn't be given a learning curve. And the third thing I would say is the costing of it, right? Some of these solutions, I would actually strongly recommend partner with players who offer very flexible revenue share, arrangements instead of upfront payment or capex payment, right? Because times are tough for everyone. I mean, and especially for an OPEX heavy business like hotels and resorts, you shouldn't be involving, no matter how much you need that technology solution, you shouldn't be spending a big chunk of money upfront in implementing it. If you have a partner whose business model or monetization model, who's going to be willing to be a long-term partner with you, right? That makes a lot of sense. So some of the business model, ideas and flexibility should also be considered while making this decision.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I like that. I mean, I just looked at the product called Lifehouse, which is tech-first hotel experience, and that they say that the hotel that invests in tech, it will provide higher revenues, better guest reviews, and higher star rating, because these are the things that are coming up. But also there are companies now that are doing white labeling, so they're producing the different solutions, and then this will be branded according to the hotel or the hospitality company that they are providing that service. So I think this is one of the key things. So you don't always know who is behind it, and it's a thing it's a selling point. For example, this company hotel that I talked about in Malaysia, they have a wonderful iPhone app, and I'm not getting sponsored by them, but I have to still tell you, the Datai Langkawi. So if the team from Datai Langkawi is watching this show, just best regards from Jayant and me. Look after us if we come and visit you one of these days. They have an iPhone app, and I think if you key in the Datai or something like that, you will find them. And it was one of the best and smoothest apps I have seen produced by a individual hotel. I was quite impressed. So it shows that there's a lot of opportunities there, but hoteliers have to be a little bit more bold and not think only about this is rubbish. My role is to be the gracious host when the people come to the hotel. You have to be a gracious host way before they're coming to the hotel.
Right. No, I completely agree. And, talking of Langkawi, I have some very sentimental, nostalgic attachment to that place. Oh. We celebrated our daughter's first birthday in Langkawi at the Westin. We stayed at Westin. And beautiful property, beautiful place. And she keeps telling us, you know what, you went when I was 1 year old. I don't remember. You have to take me there again. So probably the next time I'm there, I'm going to be staying at Datai.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they will look after you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And anything else you'd like to add on deep technologies?
In terms of key technologies, and also extending our conversation in terms of how the hotel and resort owners need to look at, and let's expand this conversation beyond products to what technology can bring to the industry, right?
Yes.
And in that context, let's look at Airbnb. Now, Airbnb has been talked about, I'm sure both in the hospitality industry and in the tech industry. But the way today I want to position Airbnb in our discussion is in the hospitality industry. There's a huge focus, and rightly so, huge gravitas, huge weightage on human interaction, right? The smile on the face when you walk into the hotel, when you walk into the property, the way you're being greeted, that courtesy, all that is trained. People need to train, and people need to act in a certain way to welcome guests and take care of them and stuff like that. And here comes a technology company which says, I will use a combination of data analytics, digital platform, and marketing, brand building, okay, to convert almost, every other person, a guy who has an extra room in his house, into a quasi-hotelier, right? And it did so by how? It did so by, putting in some gamification, processes, reviews and ratings, and very strict, service level agreements. And to a certain extent, normal people turned into quasi-hoteliers, right? I mean, everyone have become courteous. Everyone have been maintaining the rooms that the guests have been coming in. The check-in, check-out times and everything has been maintained. So what I want to, for people to take away from the Airbnb example is, that is another extreme, right? I mean, I'm not saying every hotel chain, the Hiltons, Marriotts, and the Hyatts need to become an Airbnb, but I'm saying that there is a lot to be taken, from the way technology and branding and gamification have been implemented by this technology company, okay? And there are clearly some good takeaways, right? So, for example, you're from the hospitality industry. Typically, all the GMs, let's say Astoria Waldorf, I mean, they know their regular guests, right? Once I've stayed in Astoria, say about 20 or 30 times, the 31st time I walk in, the GM will greet me by name. He knows which room or suite I prefer. He knows what I prefer to eat and drink. But all that knowledge is built over a period of years and is restricted to that particular person. And mostly GMs work all their lives in a single hotel, right? Now, we have technology to transfer the same kind of personal experience and knowledge to, let's say, a 25, 30-year-old young person who's fresh in the hotel industry. The moment I walk in, she knows that Jayant is coming in, and he stayed here with X number of times. I might be very new into this hotel, but I know, basis my software, I know that he prefers XYZ things, and she can greet me and take care of me. So that is something that data analytics and softwares and tracking and demographic and psychographic profiling of your guests can do. It need not be too deep into knocking on the privacy, or data privacy issues, but it can definitely be used to provide enhanced experience, regardless of who's the, hotel manager there at that point of time.
But the thing is that the reality with hotel managers, there are very few that stays the entire career in one hotel. There are I think I know a handful who spent most of their career in one hotel. Majority of the hotel managers they stay because everybody's on the contract. So you have maybe 4 years, and if you work for a hotel chain, then or hotel management company or hotel chain, then you are being rotated maybe every 4 years, because the hotel management company and the owners will feel that we'll need some fresh blood into the hotel. But that was not really the point. But the point really what you made is that the data that can be transferred. So when the new manager comes on board and anyone comes on board, they have access to all that data, which can be and so the relationship doesn't start from zero, but you can start from where the other person left off, except for that now you are just making that personal connection when you meet the person for the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But one thing which I found very interesting is that I read that OTAs are having a little bit of a struggle these days because they have always been, as I remember, in the driving seat. And the contribution to this is, I mean, there are two theories. One I believe less in, the other one I believe more in. And you can tell me what you think. One of them, I believe, is that the hotels are becoming smarter of developing hotel direct bookings from their customer base than ever before. Because traditionally, I still know many hotels who say, well, I let OTAs to bring me the customer. I don't mind paying my 25% commission for that service or even more, but at least they're coming to the hotel and they're generating me the flow. And then it's up to me to get to know the customer when they arrive and also make sure I get their some sort of an email address or make it in a fun way that you have a connection with them afterwards they leave. Now there's a second theory though, is that Google is becoming stronger in this game. And I know, what do you think about Google stepping into the or Amazon stepping into this field of starting to be the place where people will start to book their travel experience?
I think it was on one of your, other hospitality talks where I was a viewer, and I had very strong opinion about Google becoming an active player in this. I honestly, personally, very strongly believe that Google will continue to be an aggregator. Okay, I do not think that it will get into an OTA game. Number one, because the OTA game is also very operations-led and executions-led, right? You need to forge partnerships with different hotels in different countries, and Google's DNA is not that. And Google is an out-and-out software and data company, and it looks at 10x and 100x moonshot growths, right? So it makes sense for Google to be an aggregator, than get into this game. And OTAs, like you rightly mentioned, the entire business model of OTA is also on the shaky ground, because guess what the OTAs did? OTAs, earlier they were physical middlemen like your tour operators and stuff like that. OTAs had become the digital platforms of that, but essentially in the value chain, they became the digital version of the middlemen, right? And right now, like we discussed this on the last episode, we urge the hotel owners and the resort owners to build relationship directly with the customers, provide the reservations so that the customers guests can directly book and stuff like that. And hotels are getting smarter, you're right. And the very entire OTA business itself with that 25% commission, okay, is at risk, okay, to some extent. And secondly, you have to understand this, and I'll give you some intelligence. I will not name the name the player, but one of the top 3 OTAs in India right now, is getting into office supplies business. Can you believe that?
Office supplies.
And office supplies. Office supplies. I'll tell you why. Okay, and there's a reason behind it. Because most of the OTAs that have cropped up in the last 5 to 7 years are venture capitalist funding based. Okay, and now when the bookings and the travel is slow, all these guys are under tremendous pressure to show returns to their investors. Okay, now pressure is catching up with them, and they are investing in any business that is taking off in this bling bling time. So I'm not going to use the word as well on this episode. So let's call it bling bling. Okay, during this bling bling time, whatever business, whatever industry is taking off, these guys are investing in that. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's in their DNA, if it's adjacent to them and stuff like that. They need to showcase returns to their investors. So that extrapolates globally as well. Globally, most of the OTAs that you see right now, a lot of them are VC backed, right? They are under tremendous pressure to show returns, and they're getting into businesses that they have nothing to do with, don't understand very well, just leveraging on their customer reach, data, and brand. Okay, so that's another thing. So the investor push on the OTAs, is also big. So the OTAs right now are stuck both on the demand and on the supply side. They are under tremendous pressure.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. Hey, listen, I want to again, this thing about the bubble travel, I think so many people have missed this out. And could we talk a little bit about bubble travel again and what you see as where it's, what it is, and what is the impact on travel for the period of bling bling.
Bling bling. No, I learned a new European word for bubble travel. It's called air bridges, and I learned it only today. So
air bridges.
Anyway, air bridges.
Okay,
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, bubble travel, like what we discussed and what is being now becoming extremely popular in the travel industry is that, the world is being demarcated into 6 or 8 regions. Earlier, if you look at even 2019 numbers, right? Our Chinese were the highest number of travelers. Chinese made 150 million international trips outside their country, followed by Americans at 85 million. That was the second highest. Okay, then followed by I think Britishers or French at about 71 million. But anyway, Chinese were the most international travelers last year. Now, I'll give you an example of China itself. Chinese are not traveling to Europe, US, North America as much, or they don't plan to. They plan to travel domestically and to Southeast Asia, to Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia and Singapore, right? And we are looking at East Asia plus Southeast Asia as one region where, people, international travelers are going to travel. Again, if you look at India, South Asia and Middle East, and to some extent Southeast Asia is one other region. Okay, Europe, the entire Europe EU region is going to be one region where people will be traveling onto within that region. Similarly, North America and stuff like that. So we are seeing, about 6 to 8 regions that are coming up, that where international travelers are going to be traveling for the next couple of years, and these are sort of bubbles, right? And that's the origin of the word bubble travel, because people want to travel as well, and they don't want to take long flights. They don't want to take 8-10 hour or flights or even hops, right? I mean, if me from Bangalore, India, have to travel to US, I definitely have to hop somewhere in Europe, either in London or France or Amsterdam, okay, or in Middle East, and people don't want to do that. And secondly, they want only 4 to 5 hour flights. They want to travel internationally, but they want to finish up in a single hop 4 to 5 hours flight, right? And hence these regions are coming up, and there are going to be bubbles. So you're going to be seeing a lot of travelers. Earlier, Chinese used to travel a lot in Europe and America, and all over the place. Now you see them restricted to East Asia and Southeast Asia. Indians in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Middle East, right? So these are the bubbles that are coming up, and we are looking at this bubble travel going to be a phenomenon for the next couple of years until the bling bling goes off completely.
Every time you say bling bling, I'm doing a horn here. Train horn. Okay.
Okay. And air bridges. So what I learned is now that European summer is on and Europe is sort of opening up for tourists, every country is apparently forming a complete immigration bridge depending on the pandemic infection rate in that particular country and stuff like that. And like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, right? People in Europe have a huge long list of questions and checks that they need to make. So they're trying to optimize that. So UK with certain countries, similarly France, Italy, Spain with certain countries are forming these bridges. So think of them as bridges where the travel is going to be enabled and optimized, and the experience is going to be made as close to pre-bling times as possible.
Very good, Jayant. This has been a very good session again, as always, to catch up with you about what you have learned, and then also give my 5 cents worth of input also. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I have a quick 5-minute case study if you're up for it.
Please,
when it comes
do.
to deep technologies, right?
Yeah.
So we always have been talking about implementation of deep technologies in the hotel industry, and even in the past when we spoke on this particular podcast, we talked about examples of Japanese hotels and Chinese hotels and Korean hotels, and you know Korea very well and that market very well, you would agree, right? So with this bling bling coming in, what we are seeing is, especially in China, robotic waiters and contactless is the key word, right? I mean, so robotic waiters, driverless disinfection and sanitation, and unmanned smart hotels are coming up, right? So I just came across a very interesting case study. Okay, in this unmanned, typically across China, the smart hotels, charge anywhere between $140 to $420 per night. Okay, they are end-to-end, unmanned, wherein you make a booking through your mobile app, and like we talked about, personalized concierge solutions. Everything is on the mobile app. Their staff to guest ratio is 0.5 to 1, whereas in a conventional hotel, that ratio is 2:1 apparently. So these smart hotels are reducing that. So there's this group of hotels called Leiju in China, which started its first smart hotel in Chengdu, in a city called Chengdu in October 2017. Since then, they have 9 hotels in 9 different cities. Okay, they cater to the middle segment, right? People who their rooms are $35 to $70 a night, middle to low middle segment. But here's a very interesting thing. In the last 2.5 years, they've already catered to about 670,000 guests. Okay, and typically conventional hotels need about 80 to 120 rooms to be profitable. What these guys are saying is they're actually being profitable with 20 rooms. So smaller real estate,
20.
smaller lobbies, 20.
Oh.
Okay, 20 rooms. They have greater than 90% fill rate with 85% return guests. Okay, and this is what is interesting. They implement artificial intelligence and IoT very effectively, IoT-based solutions. So, for example, the moment a guest checks out of the room, within 5 minutes, the electricity and water is cut off for that room, all electronically. All using AI and IoT. So these are the smart hotels. In fact, the founder himself is a big data and Internet of Things expert. Okay, and even in January, on Jan 10th, bang in the middle of the pandemic, in China, a Chinese a hotel technology company called Jeju raised about $35 million in Series A, right? To provide the same set of to enable hotels with converting them into smart hotels. So, and one other thing that they're doing, which I also see, a good friend of mine who runs a big big lounge bar here in Bangalore, is that they are hiring and paying housekeeping guests on an app, and without prior training for these smart hotels in China, right? On an app and as part-time workers, they're not full-time workers. So that is something that this friend of mine is also implementing. He says most of my footfalls are over the weekend, Friday, Saturday night, and to some extent on Sunday. So why do I need to hire full-time waiters for the entire week? I hire part-time college students and part-time youngsters, and he developed an app for that. So this is also another trend that I'm saying. So these smart hotels that I talk about, not be for everyone, but we talked about one particular customer segment in the first episode of this particular series called digital nomads,
Yes.
right? Now people working from anywhere. I mean, work from home has extended to work from anywhere. So all these youngsters would love to move to different cities, stay in for 2-3 weeks, and explore the place and also work during the day. So some of these smart hotels would be catering to the tech savvy, efficient digital nomads of guests who are of that sort. So this is one particular trend that's coming up. So, and my personal view is that, this is one extreme of complete technology usage, right? Internet of Things and AI, and making hotels completely humanless. My personal view is the reality and the long-term reality is somewhere in between,
Yes.
right? A good usage of technology to enable humans for operational efficiency, and most importantly, to enable them to provide that personalized experience to the guests as much. I still believe as a guest, I still would want to talk to a human, not to a robot, but I would love if that person, he or she need not be spending 20, 30 years in that particular hotel to know me or any other guest. But, if they're enabled by technology solutions and data analytics to know some preferences of mine and take care of me.
Yeah,
so the middle ground is always the best.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, very good. Thank you very much for those information. Now, if there is any links that you can share, we could put that to those who are looking at this replay in the YouTube channel called Sam-Erik Ruttmann. In the link in the comments, I will add some links that Jay shared with me. So if you're interested to know a little bit more about some of the topics that was touched, and there's an article behind that can be viewed by anyone, then we will put it in. But otherwise, keep on watching and subscribe to the Sam-Erik Ruttmann, the Social Hotelier YouTube channel. And also, if you don't want to watch our beautiful personalities on a screen, you can listen to us on a podcast. And that podcast is the Social Hotelier podcast. It will be featured in the majority of the iPod channels available, whether it's iTunes or Google or whatnot. So please look out for that. Jayant, this has been a great session again with you, and we will schedule another one sooner than later to give our loyal audience and for all of you who are viewing us some more updates on the hotel tech side. And so thank you very much again, Jayant. Or is there anything final words you'd like to share?
Just rock on, have fun. It's summer already.
Exactly.
2020 is not too bad. I mean, it's a change. Let's have fun.
The most important, we should have fun. I totally agree with you. In Helsinki, we are expecting a heat wave. For us, it's 25 degrees plus. Doesn't sound like much to you, but believe me, when you're up here in the northern hemisphere, 25 is like 45 for you.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Okay, with those words, then thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Like.